Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's USA Libraries Art Galleries Poet Talk, like our very first ever Poet Talk. And it's Mike Turner. Thank you so much, Mike, for joining us. Appreciate it. Thank you so much for being here. And we're going to start with you telling us your story.
Well, hi, Paula, and thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited about doing this. I'm Mike Turner. I'm a poet here in Alabama. I've lived in Fairhope for about 4 years in Detroit, where I had grown up. I retired and I moved here. My wife and I are both really big into sailing and boating. And that's one of the big reasons we chose the thing. After a while, it kind of gets a little boring. So I started looking for other things to fill the floodgates for me. Here's something else that I'm going to be doing now. And I started writing. And this is the story of the Boyington Oak to a gallows. And
Mhm.
on the gallows, there will be an oak tree that will grow from my grave as proof that I did not commit this crime. Well,
Mhm.
he was buried just outside the Church Street graveyard here in Mobile. And lo and behold, the tree grew and
Mhm.
it's still there. And so
Yeah.
you gotta wonder, was he innocent? Was he not innocent? But a
Mhm.
terrific folk story, and I wrote a song about it, and it's going to be performed as a part of that festival when they do the play at Oakley over Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah,
So
the
things like
Boynton.
that, I love doing things like that.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, there's so much rich history here for those things, so it's really easy. And then it ties back to your poetry. I have one of your poems up here, And Yet We Love.
Yes,
So what is the logic behind that poem? What brought you to that?
love is a very frightening thing because I think we all want love, we all pursue love, and excuse me, we hope that when we
Mhm.
find somebody that we love and they love us, that our heart will be protected.
Mhm.
And yet there's always the chance that your heart will be broken. And even knowing that, we love anyway.
Mhm.
And I don't know why I started reflecting on that, but I did.
Mhm.
And this little poem, and this is one of my shorter poems actually, this is what resulted. And basically, I think it tells in a little bit better language the story that I just told, that
Mhm.
even though we know our hearts can be broken, and
Mhm.
yet we love.
Wow, that is great. And then there's the one that you had, Voyaging, which is the one that's based on the book you're about to come out.
Yeah, Voyaging. I don't remember if Voyaging's in the book or not.
Oh,
There,
okay.
there is a magazine.
Did I get the wrong poem? Let me see. Is
Well,
that
no,
the
you've
right
got
one?
Voyaging up. There's a science fiction magazine, although they don't call it science fiction anymore. They call it speculative fiction.
Mhm.
And I was looking for opportunities to publish poems,
Mhm.
and I came across this magazine, Red Planet magazine, that was just starting up. They were just starting for their first issue, and they had a submission call out looking for short stories and poetry
Mhm.
with a focus on Mars.
Okay.
Red Planet. And
Mhm.
I had never written anything like that, but I've always loved science fiction, so I thought, well, maybe I'll give it a try. And I wrote a poem for them, not this poem, but I
Mhm.
wrote a poem for them, and they accepted it, and they started accepting every poem I sent them, which again just
Wow.
astounded me. But in the first year of their publishing, and they were at that time a monthly, out of the
Mhm.
first 12 months, I had 11 poems placed with them,
That's
and they
awesome.
went quarterly. Well, anyway, Voyaging is one of the poems that they published, and when you read the poem, it certainly harkens to my interest in science fiction and space travel. I was always a big
Mhm.
Star Trek, to realize that the entire verse was all in your imagination.
Wow.
And again, that whole concept kind of fascinates me in a way that because I'm a science fiction fan and a Star
Mhm.
Trek fan and things like that, I've seen all these stories and I've been to all these places in my
Art, and then meme it with.
record a song and put it up on my YouTube channel. I don't I have done some video not to do that. I tend to record the song and then go find an doing this.
Yeah.
I see now that I'm going to want to do more like this meme generator with maybe the lyric of the song or something on
Oh
it.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it'll be kind of a neat way. I think I agree with you. I like poetry with the image. I think the image tends to set a tone for the poem.
Hmm.
Like here's a good example. This is
Hmm.
Stare Into the Trees. And I specifically chose a black and white photo to
Hmm.
illustrate this for the exhibition. Uh, I've always been a big fan of Ansel Adams. This is not an Ansel Adams photo, I don't believe. It just came out
Hmm.
of a meme generator. But I liked the idea of it being a black and white photo to go with
Hmm.
it.
Yeah.
I Stare Into the Trees was one of the first poems that I had placed in a book anthology.
Hmm.
It's in a book called Poetica 2, which is a collection of 100 poems by 100 different poets. It was published by Clarendon House Publishing.
Okay.
And this poem, I've actually kind of experienced what this poem is about, staring off into the forest and getting the feeling that you're standing there with the spirits of people from past ages that looked at the same trees.
Hmm.
Those trees have been there for hundreds of years. And so there are people hundreds of years ago that stood in the same spot that I'm standing and saw the same thing that I'm seeing.
Hmm.
And if you stare into the trees and unfocus, you start to sense those other people with you
Hmm.
and thinking about what you have in common and the lineage that has led through time from them to us and
Hmm.
beyond, because someday there will be someone else standing in that spot and perhaps they'll sense me having been there.
That's so true. You know, that kind of leads into the work you're doing. You co-founded a record label.
Yeah, I had written a couple of songs that were anti-war songs, what in the old days would have been called a protest song. And I mean, it's just something that I wrote.
Hmm.
And I had written a couple of songs that were the flip side of that, pro peace. You can be anti-war, pro peace, same kind of thing, but it's two sides of that coin. So I had written a couple of those songs. Well, I belong to a bunch of songwriting groups and music groups on Facebook, and there was an individual in Pennsylvania, Taylor Sapp, who's a music and record producer there, professional record producer. And he was interested in finding people that shared his vision of using music to change the world by convincing decision makers and world leaders to reject war and embrace peace.
Hmm.
And I think that's a great message. No, honestly, I really don't think any of us want war. There are
Hmm.
people that, you know, kind of glorify war to agree, but I think most of us do not want war if we can possibly avoid it.
Hmm.
And that to me seemed a pretty good message. And so he wound up taking a song that I had written and producing it with an artist that he knew, a vocalist that he knew, as the first song on this label that we founded. It's called Music for World Peace Records.
Hmm.
And what we do, we want original songs that oppose war or advocate peace. That's what we
Hmm.
want. And we have gone out into the international community looking for writers, looking for musicians and vocalists that will help us produce these songs and get them out into circulation so people are hearing the music, hearing that message, and
Hmm.
trying to spread it in the hope that we will ultimately get to some of the political leaders and decision makers, and they will hear that message and say, hey, yeah, that's right. Let's
Hmm.
not have war. And so we're coming up on the first year anniversary of having founded the label. It'll be in the middle of June, will be a year that we've been in operation. As of today, we have 17 singles that we have recorded and produced with about 12 different artists. I wrote or co-wrote, I think, 3 of those songs, and I've got several more that I have written that are in various stages of production. We have artists from here in the United States, the Philippines, New Zealand. I wrote a song with a guy from South Africa. We have artists in Europe. And the whole point is to get that music out there, and particularly using a kind of an interesting business model, because the music industry, much like the book industry, has changed a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not a lot of money in it for a lot of the artists who write songs and actually perform songs. It just isn't the way it used to be in the old days, where there was money hand over fist. The real money these days in the music industry is in actually going out and doing live shows, which COVID really, truly had a big impact on. Well, here we've got these writers and these artists all over the world that want to join us in promoting this song, this message of opposing war, and they have no way to get their music out unless they just do it themselves and put it on YouTube. And I certainly have nothing against that. I do that.
Yeah.
But we wanted to give them an opportunity to really have a professionally produced version of their song that's out there getting played on the radio and getting streamed on the major streaming sites like Spotify and YouTube. And that's what we do. And we do it in a way that doesn't cost anybody any money. And that sounds like it's impossible, but it's not, because the internet to have vocalists in the UK, and they can all work a product together in their home studios that's very professionally done and is now out there on things like Spotify.
Well, how can they get to that?
You can go to our website at musicforworldpeacerecords.com. All of our singles are there. There's a tab there that says listen to our music. And all of our songs are there for free. We accept donations, but we don't charge anything to stream them and download them. And then we place the songs on the major streaming platforms like Spotify and YouTube and iTunes and things like that.
Okay.
But I'd encourage everybody to go and listen to the music. And if you're a writer or if you're a musician and you've got a song or you want to get involved in making music that's on our message, go to our website and there's a separate section, submit your music. We'll read and listen to anything.
Okay.
Because we want to find those messages out there at the grassroots level and get them up to where they get heard.
Okay. Now I'm going to show see if it shows up. Yep. There's your
Yep, Music for World Peace Records. We're also on Facebook at Music for World Peace Records label. That's a public group that anybody can join. And we've got a business page on Facebook, Music for World Peace Records. So those three places, and plus we're on Twitter. But the website is really the place to go to find the music and to find the portal to get to us if you've got something you want us to hear.
Very cool.
And it's been a great experience for me personally as a writer, because I've had the opportunity to write with these people in other countries that I never would have had a chance to do that before. I've written with an individual in South Africa, another fella in the Netherlands. I'm writing a song right now with a guy in the Philippines, and they will get produced and released, and they'll be out there.
That is so exciting. That is so cool. Did you ever see yourself in this position 5 years ago?
Good grief, no. even when I was, once I started songwriting, I really don't think of myself as a performer. In today's music world, you have to be a performer to get your music heard. It's not like the old days where I could be, a songwriter sitting in an office in New York or in Nashville and send my song around and Johnny Cash would record it. It doesn't happen that way all that much anymore. The real way to get your music heard is to record it yourself and get it out there. And so once I had written some songs that I thought were fairly good songs, I taught myself how to do the recording, because I'd never done any of that before, and playing some of the different instruments that you would want to do, drums, percussion, those types of things. And I did a couple of productions of some of my country songs and started sending them around to records, or I'm sorry, radio stations and to online streaming radio, they call it. And it got played. And in fact, I had a hit record. There's a radio station, Lake of the Ozarks Radio in Arkansas, that started playing one of my songs, and people started calling up and saying, "Hey, play that song again." And
That's exciting.
I made their top 20 countdown for like 6 weeks in a row. I couldn't believe it.
Wow, that's amazing. I'm so happy. I'm so glad things are working out and that you're experiencing a whole new world right now. That is just so cool.
It really is a new world. Like I say, I didn't think of myself as a performer.
Mhm.
So there's an organization here in Alabama, the Alabama Music Association, which exists to promote music and traditional country dance as well. And they're based over in Dothan, and national competition that's held and compete up there. And the people that find the medium, you can find a way to do it. It's an added bonus when it connects with other people and they enjoy it and find meaning in it. Thinking that money and selling things is the measure of success, and in art, it's not. The measure is express what I intended it to express in a way that other people may find meaning in it. That to me is the definition of success. Those standards, I think I've written a successful poem. So find your means of expression and stay true to expressing what it is that you want to say and conveying it so that other people.
Thank you very much. And all right, thank you. Bye.